Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of the Million Pound Mission Podcast. It's your buddy Adam, the PhD, the previously heavy dude, and this is episode number 316, Getting Healthy Without Breaking the Bank, with Jonathan Mendonsa from the ChooseFI podcast. Super fired up about this one. This is one of my favorite topics just to straight up nerd out about. We are going to be nerding out about frugality, how to get healthy on a budget, how to meal prep, all that stuff. But really quickly, I've got to remind you guys, the tickets have started to sell for my live event here in October of 2020, October 2nd and 3rd, right here in Bloomington, Indiana, the world headquarters of the Million Pound Mission. And I would love for you to check it out all at millionpoundmission.com. Check it out. I've got a great speaker lineup. Right now, I've got 9 people listed to speak, and I'm going to try to add another, maybe even double that number. It's a 2-day event. You guys asked for more Q&A, more panels, more speakers, so I added a whole other day compared to last year, and we're still keeping it small. That's one of the bits of feedback that I got from the event in 2019 is that people really enjoyed, like the speakers were just out there sitting next to them, and there was a crowd of about 80 people, and this year we're going to cap it out at 150. So I know a lot of you go to big giant events with hundreds or even thousands of people, and it's hard to gain access to the speakers. This will not be like that. I mean, you're going to be in there sitting with the speakers, interacting with them. I facilitate as much connection and interaction with the speakers and with the fellow participants as possible. We've got some great workshops we're doing. One of them will be a financial independence workshop where I'm going to teach some concepts like my credit card debt slingshot to help me erase $40,000 worth of credit card debt and slingshot that strategy into paying off my mortgage in my 30s and having a head start on early retirement. I'm going to talk about travel rewards hacking and just hitting your financial independence number. A lot of the stuff that we touch on in this episode with Jonathan, we're going to really dive deep in that workshop at the event. And as far as I know, this is the only health event that includes financial health as part of it, because I feel like that's an important thing. It's a big stress point for a lot of people, and that's just one component of the live event. So check it all out, millionpoundmission.com. Get your ticket before we sell out. Prices are going up here at the end of the month. If we have tickets remaining at that point, it's going to be worth it. I can promise you that. I can't wait to lock eyes with you, give you a big hug, and go to work in October. Now, let's dive into this episode. And the question I want to kick this off with is, have you guys ever felt like getting healthy would be so much easier if it wasn't so expensive? Like I go and shop, I'm like, dang, all this grass-fed and pasture-raised and organic, it's like double the price. And I'm trying to be healthy, and I'm trying to save long-term by not having to pay for, medical expenses and things like that down the line, which that's a sound investment. But it would be so much easier, and there would be so much less friction for people to start if it wasn't so expensive. All right, we've all felt that way, and today I'm bringing in a frugality phenom to help us improve our health without breaking the bank. Jonathan Mendonsa is the co-host of the ChooseFI podcast, where they teach the masses how to achieve financial independence. And straight up, guys, this is one of my top 2 podcasts that I listen to. I binge on this. I have listened to almost every episode. I listen to every new episode. It is just a resource, a straight up resource. If you're into frugality, if you're into finances, if you're into early retirement or just saving money, this is just going to be your jam. You got to tune in. You got to hit that subscribe button. Now, one of the key points that they teach on the ChooseFI podcast is frugality. And in this episode, Jonathan is going to teach us how being frugal with our health, our nutrition, and the fitness choices can lead to improved health, but also lowered stress levels and also to hitting financial independence. Now, in this episode, we will actually use Jonathan's definition and get that from him about what exactly is financial independence and what we need to do to get there. He really dives deep on his grocery shopping, his meal prep strategy, his the way that adds flavor on a budget. We go deep on that. Like I talk about, like when you hit the grocery store, what's the game plan? What are we looking at with sales? What are we looking at with meal prep? And he gives us a great pro tip about his Chipotle seasoning that he likes to use. We also get into, this is where it blew my mind because I hadn't really thought about this before, but he dropped a stat about the long-term positive impact that can be had by cutting your monthly spending by just $100. The number he produces makes total sense, and it will blow your mind. It'll immediately want you to cut like your cell phone bill or your cable, or just not eat out as much each month to save that $100. Like I don't want to spoil it for you, but the number he puts out there, like if you save an extra $100 a month, not just save, but if you cut your budget by $100 per month, here is the long-term financial impact. It will blow your mind. All right. I feel like I've teased this enough. I'm really fired up for you to be introduced to Jonathan. If you've never heard of him, this guy's going to rock your world. He's just a great, great resource. He's passionate about what he has to say. And in this interview, I just kind of stoked the fire. This was not an interview where I wanted to have a whole lot of back and forth. Like I wanted this to be him teaching us as much as possible. So I'll ask a question here or there, but it is just like Jonathan going full bore into adding value to us with this episode. So without further delay, let's dive into episode number 316, Getting Healthy Without Breaking the Bank, with Jonathan Mendonsa. All right, Jonathan Mendonsa, welcome to the Million Pound Mission. How are we doing today, my friend?
PhD, doing great. Thanks for having me on the show.
I'm so excited for this. I've been nerding out about your stuff for a couple of months now. And that's the thing I love about podcasting is like, I can reach out and be like, hey, let's podcast together. And you said, yes, you're investing time in my community here. So I can't thank you enough, my friend.
I mean, I think your community is my community. I mean, we're trying to, all of us, we're on this path together. We get a finite amount of time and we're trying to live our best life possible. And we've all decided we don't want to wait until 65 to just say, okay, now we have some time. Let's think about it now. We want to start making changes today and tomorrow and every day thereafter to live our best life. And thanks for giving me the opportunity.
Yeah, and you and your co-host Brad are all about that, helping people live their best life and not delaying. And I just love that. That's something I believe to the core. And I first found out about you guys and the ChooseFI podcast and the whole community through the documentary Playing with Fire. I've mentioned it on the podcast before, and I just had to go down that rabbit hole when I, there are a few podcasts out there that dabble in FI, but you guys are so comprehensive. And I was looking for that blueprint. I was looking for that 101 mentality, and you guys just dropped the FI bomb out there. So before we go down that rabbit hole too deep, I would love for you to just put a definition out there for our audience of what is FI, what is financial independence, what do you mean by that, and how did you discover it?
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Let me answer your question by asking another question, right? What would it look like to get to the point where working is totally optional? Like, just think about that. You're listening to this episode right now. You're maybe driving to work. Maybe work lights you up. Maybe you hate work and you're showing up, barely showing up each and every day. Put yourself in a slightly different frame. Imagine that you never had to work for $1 again. Every single day that you decide to get in a car and go to work or show up was based on how much value your job brought to your life. To me, that is financial independence. What does it look like for me to get to the point where working is optional? Not just, again, now see, I want you guys to actually see the threads here. Not just in our golden years, right? Not just 65 me on, not just when Social Security kicks in, but like now, right? And I think when I say that, it comes across maybe a little bit get rich quickish, right? Right. I wouldn't blame you for thinking that. And get rich quick it's usually a scam or a scheme that ends up with your money in someone else's pocket, you a little bit on tilt, waiting for the next Bitcoin or whatever. Like, oh, maybe I'll keep looking. It'll be there. But you just kind of like, as a pinball and a pinball machine going back and forth and no clear plan or understanding what is going to get you to the number. And the great thing is, while get rich quick schemes usually do end with you and burnout and on tilt, you can get rich quick-ish, right? Intermediate time periods every single time. Because at its core, it's based on simple math. And that is like financial independence in a nutshell. For me, it is an umbrella term for life optimization. It's reclaiming decades of my life and getting to the point where working is optional and using incredibly simple math to help us both define what it would take to get there. And then once you have that, map out step by step, piece by piece, exactly what it would look like. So I'm going to go ahead and like, we're going to get into the health and fitness here in just a second here. But I want to tell you, like, being on this path to financial independence has eliminated stress from my life. It has allowed me to prioritize in ways that I would have never believed possible. And so I want to say, like, to you as an audience member, it's not binary either. And we'll talk about this in a second, but it's not you get all the power when you reach financial independence and you have no power up until. It's a continuum, right? So just by being on the path taking small actions today. And Adam, I know your story weaves this. You see this theme throughout their life, so you'll be able to vouch for this. You get this power all along the way as you decide that I'm not going to be paycheck to paycheck anymore. I'm not going to dedicate the next 10 years of my life to just this drift state where everything's just lukewarm. Okay. It's like a 6 out of 10. It's just some kids. It's kind of comfortable. Okay. I'm not upset enough to make any changes. No, we're going to like make small changes day after day, get 1% better, realizing that with every aspect of your life, your health, your fitness, but certainly mathematically your finances, the results are compounded and the greatest gains are always delayed. And I think that's what we see when we look at our health as well. When you decide that one day that you're not going to have that donut, you're not going to have that piece of pizza, like you get no benefit from that afternoon or that night, maybe even the next day. But like over time, it works both ways. If you cut out that crap out of your life, you make that change day after day, month after month, you're going to be a different person a year from now. When you cut the soda out, a year from now, you're going to be a different person. And it works the other way as well. When you make these small habits that work against you, you stack them on, one at a time. And at one point, it's just, all right, I'm going to do this once. But at some point, it becomes a habit and it can either lead toward good or ill. So we want to take that same mindset that this community has been cultivating, and we want to now very intentionally apply it to reclaiming decades of our most precious, non-renewable resource. It's your time. We're running out of it. Let's just realize that. And then not to say, oh, well, I can't enjoy the pleasures of life. Say, no, we got to make sure that we're investing our time and our energy into things that actually bring us value. Again, I'm going to try to constantly weave this into the mindset that you're already cultivating here. The 4 hours that you watch of Netflix every single night, at the time, it may be, well, what else am I going to do? But over time, you're losing your most precious non-renewable resource, right? It's that same idea. Let's evaluate what brings us energy, what lights us up, and place our energy into those items. So for finances, financial independence, how do you get there? Well, what I would recommend your audience do, just as a guiding light, is do you have any idea how much your life actually costs? Your life on an annual basis. If you were to go look at any retirement calculator on the internet right now, it would ask you what your income is, right? And it's always based around your income. Someone might have this amazing income. They go and put their income in there and it tells them they need $12 million to retire. What is that based off of? Like, I'm never going to have $12 million. What? But that's crazy. If you're saving money, almost by definition, you need less than you make, right? You have to have some space there. So instead of us going straight to some income projection based retirement calculator, let's look at what our life actually costs. And this is a real problem, but it's very simple to solve. Most of us have no idea what our life costs, none. But if you did, you get two benefits. One, you could start to enact change. Just like when you're tracking what you actually eat, right? Like whatever method you use, tracking your calories, taking pictures of what you eat, whatever that mechanism of accountability is, once you know what it exists without judgment, oh, wow, here's what I ate last week. Now you can observe it and you can say, well, am I happy with that? Do I want to make changes? It's the same with our finances. Without judgment, what would it look like for you to track what you spend over the period of a month? Well, how do I do this? Well, you can make it as simple as you want. You can write it on a piece of paper. You can put it on an Excel sheet. You can use a free tool like Mint or YNAB, whatever you want to do. How much did your life cost over a period of a month? You say, well, that was Christmas. We spent a ton of money at Christmas. Okay, life's lumpy, right? So maybe it's not 1 month, maybe it's a couple months. Let's average those together. But on average, not when you're in a deprivation state, but just generally, how much food, how much money, right, are you spending? It's where you see the parallels here. Once we know that, we can then map out how much it costs us for a year. So for instance, if you were to run through this experiment, you were to take those monthly expenses and you were to find out that your life costs, and again, there is no prescriptive dollar amount that your life needs to fit into. It's just once you know, then you have some information. Let's say your life costs $40,000 a year. What we need to do is get to the point where our investments, however you want to categorize those, can produce for us $40,000 a year for the remainder of our life, right? So to a basic way to map this out, and this we're moving very quickly into the finance territory, but it's something called the 4% rule. Now, this is based on a study that was done. It's called the Trinity study, and they basically said, over almost any period of time, if you withdrew 4% of your portfolio year over year with like a 95+% success rate, you would have money left at the end of your life, right? So we do an inverse of that. And the way we'll do this is we'll find out how much does their life actually cost. This person has, $40,000 a year of expenses. If you had $1 million in common sense investment vehicles, keeping up, making average market returns, you would expect that $1 million could produce for you $40,000 a year of income for the remainder of your life. You're like, well, my life costs $60,000 a year. My life costs $90,000. It doesn't matter. it's still just now you have a number that you're going to shoot for, right? So we could say, well, my number is actually $90,000 a year, but $3,000 a month of that goes to a mortgage, and I plan to have my mortgage paid off before I retire. See how this works? Yes. So what is your life actually going to cost? And you can actually start to map out changes, and you now have a number that you can start to work for. Now, Adam, I'm a talker, and I know you're a talker, so I feel like at some point, like you're just bubbling up inside, and I need to stop.
Well, I want to add my 2 cents on what you just said, because it is so important. Because so many people they're in their car right now driving to that job, and this is just, wash, rinse, repeat, or whatever the saying is, every single day. And they just do that because they feel like they have to do that until they're 65, because that is what everyone else does, and they don't like it, and there's no end in sight. And understanding that number that you just talked about, the 4% rule, your FI number, that is what gave me a sense of freedom, of knowing I can work towards a goal. When I knew that I wanted to lose 100 pounds, I worked towards that goal. And now I have my FI number. I know exactly how much my family's life costs per year. I've done the math, and I know exactly where I'm at. And I told you when I reached out, I'm 42% to FI, and that's very exciting. That's very, very exciting. And it just rekindles that hope of like, we actually have control, right? And that feeling like we are in control of that situation is a total mindset shift. And now we can actually change that situation, and we can work towards it. So it's a huge confidence builder.
I just want to say that any person that can grab that PhD label, anybody that can do that, they can do this. This is not rocket science. And if your financial advisor is sending you a Christmas card, but they're not giving you this information, then go find a new financial advisor, right? Like, there's great ones out there. There's really shoddy ones out there that are just collecting their money from you. Like, they should have a heart of a teacher, and you should be able to understand your plan, not just say, I think it's going to work out, right? This is common sense. It doesn't have to be rocket science. And I think that's one of the biggest things that the FI community, this FI movement, one of the things that it's doing, it's simplifying it, and it's taking it from something that was academia. Well, I don't have a degree in this, so I don't know. I just trust my guy or gal. No, you can understand this. In fact, understanding this is literally worth hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars over your investing lifetime. But someone saying, wow, Adam, that's great. You're 42% FI. I'm broke. I'm paycheck to paycheck, right? And let's just talk about that for a second. Because if you are paycheck to paycheck right now, or you're making it from one minimum credit card payment to the next, you're not saving anything, then hear me on this. This is important that you hear this. You can never retire. You will always be working to make it to the next paycheck, right? You see how this works and why it's a problem, because you're like, well, I don't like what I'm doing. Exactly. So let's stay tuned for the rest of this conversation and figure out what we can do. Let's play with simple numbers here just for a second. If you could save, let's just say 1%, be 1% better, right? 1%. Then that means that and I'm trying to keep this, it's such simple math. Every 99 years you work, you could afford to take a year off. Wow. But you can't run very many of those cycles, right? So that's why, as we start to move this up, you'll see what happens. If you could save the 4%, the 5%, if you could save 25% of your income, which is aggressive by almost any standard in the financial, advice community, if you could save 25% of your income, that means that every 3 years you work, you could afford to take off. Now, let me tell you about the power of anchoring, right? Do you guys use anchoring as a tactic when you're, kind of come up with a plan for your life with your health and your fitness goals? You anchor yourself to something so you have a new baseline. There's power when we talk about your money as well. The financial independence community, my community, anchors ourselves to a 50% savings rate. Now, 50%, I get, if your paycheck right now is like absurd. It's laughable. We don't have to start on day one. But if you could do it somehow, if you could get 1% better and look for small optimizations on the way, you're doing that math. I know you're doing the math right now in your head. You say, holy crap, every year I work, I could afford to take a year off. So you see how powerful that just got, right? Now, here's what's crazy. If you could stack, and let's get 1% better, that's just like cash in a can, right? If you could take that 50% savings rate and put that in a common sense investment vehicle, which I define as investing in low-cost, broad-based index funds with very low fees, right? Low cost. And we'll talk about the impact of fees in just a couple minutes here. But if you could do that, keeping up with the market. Now, I think with most get-rich-quick schemes, it's all about, well, how can you beat the market? How could you beat the market? You're not even keeping up with it. No one's keeping up with it. 80% of advisors can't keep up with it with actively managed fund. And we could go into the data on that. But if you could just keep up with it, making average 8% returns over a relatively short period of time, you're going to get to the point where working is optional in 10 to 15 years. You're like, holy crap, why didn't they teach me that in school? Why didn't they teach me that sooner? Yes, that's the exact point. Why not? I don't know. We're going to solve that today. There's no excuse. You've heard it now, and we can go farther with this. But the idea is keep it incredibly simple. Like, I don't know if I could tell you how this upcoming year and guarantee you that you could beat the market. Who knows? Last year, I could tell you exactly what stocks crushed the market last year. Disney, Roku, Netflix, Tesla. They had a phenomenal year, right? But I don't know what's going to happen with the stock market this year. I have no idea. So like a get-rich-quick scheme is all around, let me help you beat the market. And oh, by the way, I'll take a guaranteed fee off the bottom, right? Whether it be the course or whether it be the assets under management. They're getting theirs either way. But I can tell you every single time, and I can guarantee you how you can keep up with the market. Every single time, right? Invest in low-cost broad-based index funds. Buy everything. And if you look at the market over any like investing timeline, long-term timeline, which I would define as 30, 40 years, the market does incredible things. So we have a long-term mindset. We don't think about selling until we really need the money. We think about investing as much as possible. And there's two things to that, right? When the market's going up, we're like, woohoo, getting me there faster. When the market's going down, and this is really important because I think when someone's trying to sell you on using their services because they're going to beat the market, or two, they're going to keep you from selling, right? This is why you need a person to keep you from selling, to help you with your fear. That can be very expensive, though, because they charge for that, right? If you have this level of intentionality, when the market goes down 30, 40%, because something happens in the political world that's very uncertain and now everybody's freaking out, the market just went on sale 30, 40%. Can you imagine if the brand new iPhone was 70% off, right? Like, oh, wow, I'm going to scoop one up. Like if that simple little mindset tweak is there, where when the market goes up, you're like, yeah, getting me to 5 faster. And when the market's going down, you're like, yeah, getting more for my money, right? Those two ideas, because with a single stock, a great company, let's say it's Tesla. I'm just using it as an example. With a single company, we have no idea what's going to happen. I could find an equal number of articles telling me how Tesla's going to go to zero as I could telling me that Tesla is the future. And depending on your bias, that's probably how you feel about it. And if Tesla went down 70% next year, I don't know. It depends on what your bias is. Maybe you'd be confident, or maybe you're like, oh, crap, the bottom just fell out. They're not going to come back. Now, here's the thing. With a single stock, you'd be right to have that fear. But when you're talking about buying the entire market, every single company, you can feel confident that you're buying the market on sale. When the market goes 30%, 40% down, you're buying all the companies. And some of them absolutely will go to zero. But others will go up by more than 100%. They'll go up by 200%, 300%, 400%, and you own them all, right? We're going to simplify this, and then you're going to match the market's returns. There's a great image. Maybe you can Google it and put it in the show notes. Just type in, is this the top market returns? Type that in, put it in the show notes in your Google images, and you will see sometimes the market does really scary stuff, right? Like the next day it goes down 30, 40%, and you think it's Armageddon. You think it's totally over. But you look at it over a trend, a period of time, like 5, 10, 15 years, and you're like, oh, wow, I'm definitely noticing a pattern there. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. And that's what we want our money to do. Like if we had to save every single dollar ourselves, that would be great. But we want the power of the market to work for us. And instead of freaking out and trying to figure out which company is going to be a winner in 2020, 2021, we're just going to buy them all. Let the market do its thing. And we're just going to sit back, be incredibly lazy. That's one of the biggest complaints about this index fund strategy is that like, oh, it's too simple. It's too simple. Well, what's up? I want to go work on other stuff. I want to focus on my health and fitness. I want to focus on my life optimization. I want to have a set and forget plan and know that it's more than good enough. It's so much better than just good enough. And it's easy. This is the only thing in life where something that is so simple is likely the most optimized path.
And so in your show, you guys teach what you just talked about. Like you guys go deep, you compartmentalize each nook and cranny of, earning the income, hitting that FI number, living optimally. We talk about, tax optimization, all that stuff. So you guys want to really go deep, you have to check out the ChooseFI podcast, and also shameless plug, the brand new book, which is amazing. And I am currently diving into right now. You've really caused conflict in my heart, Jonathan, because I've been binge listening to ChooseFI podcast, but then the book comes out. I'm like,
Oh,
now I have to listen to this too,
yeah.
and I'm going back and forth, and but I love it all. So that being said, one of the things you guys talk a lot about is, all right, we're earning as much as we can earn, we're
Yeah.
saving, we're optimizing saving, but then we also live frugally, and I am a frugal geek to the heart. Like
Nice.
I post on Instagram every Saturday when I go grocery shopping, and I post my receipts. And I talk about going to Aldi, and I talk
Wow.
about all this stuff. So I want to talk about that lever that you guys like to pull a little bit,
Love
especially
it.
when it pertains to fitness and food. I know you have lots of great strategies about frugal food, because people talk about getting healthy, like organic and grass fed. Adam, this is so expensive. And I'm 6'3", I'm 225 pounds. I've lost 100 pounds, but I'm still a big man. Like I eat 3 to 4,000
Yeah.
calories a day,
Okay.
but my family grocery bill each week is usually about $100, and it's me, my wife, and 2 kids.
Oh, wow, man. Well,
And
I need to interview
you
you
know,
about this. This is amazing.
we're saving some money on this. So let's talk frugal food and frugal fitness, and let's dive into what your mind has in store for us around those topics.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so let's talk just real quick. I'm going to go straight there. Before I do that, I'm going to sidebar this and just say, does it really make a difference, right? Basically, we just talked about how to calculate your number. So you can play around with some calculations here, but what you should realize is every $100 a month in recurring monthly expenses that you can cut, right? Every $100 a month you can cut is actually $30,000 less than you need in this number that we just calculated, this FI number. I'm there. I never have to work again if I don't want to. So it matters, right? And we can go through all the different tactics. Like we can figure out how to travel the world for free. If you have a lot of travel expenses, we can talk about how to optimize your taxes and control your tax rate. There's incredible stuff there. I mean, if you understand how the tax code works, there's a lot of money to be saved. But ultimately, what it all comes down to is this very simple equation, which you kind of said, but just for our audience, let's just think about this. There's not there's an infinite number of levers as you get down to subcategories, but at its essence, we have three options. We can earn more, right? Earn more, we can spend less, or we can figure out a way to invest better. That's kind of how we structured our book as well. But that's an equation, right? What you earn minus what you spend is equal to the difference, this gap, this savings rate. So earning more is awesome, and that's a different show. But when you earn an extra dollar, depending on your marginal tax bracket between your federal level and your state level, like you're only going to get 70% of that or less return, right? Because some of that's going off to taxes. So when you're starting out, you know how much your life costs and you're looking what to do, you get a dollar for dollar return on every dollar you were spending before that you're not spending now. So clearly, when you're starting out, right now, you're listening to this, you're like, holy crap, I've been drifting all this time, bolt of lightning. I'm getting started on this next week. Like, we're going to start with finding out what our life costs, and we're going to start on spending less, right? Or at least looking for room to optimize. Now, what I find the black holes in people's budgets, like if you think about your pie chart, your life is a pie chart, your expenses is a pie chart, well over 50% of that pie chart is going to be taken up with home and transportation and food. Those three are going to take up the vast majority of your audience's 50% of that, their life expense pie chart. So we probably don't want to go straight to the lattes, right? I mean, lattes are fine if it meets with the other goals, but like, I guess that's kind of melted inside of like the food part. Let's talk about the food for just a second here, since there's some context. My co-host Brad anchors himself to an idea of $2 per person per meal. You talked about anchoring. Do you see how anchoring, there's a theme here? It's not even so much that you need to adhere rigidly to this $2 per person per meal. But if you think about that, okay, if I were to spend $2 per person per meal, that means for me, 3 meals a day, $6 a day, $180 a month, right? That's a number to use. And we'll come back to that in just a second. But what I want to say is that when you go get that item at Cheesecake Factory for $27 a serving plus tip, you have that's 10 meals. That's 10. And it was fried in partially hydrogenated trans fat oils, whatever, right? Like you're not even, you can't control the ingredients. It's crushing your wallet and etc. Pizza Hut, same thing, right? I mean, you cannot get $2 per person per meal when you go to eat at restaurants, but you can cook at home. You can control the ingredients, control what goes into your system, your body, your temple, right? All of these things are more controllable and you're going to use less ingredients. There's so many benefits there. So if we think about that, I did this challenge once with Brad, and we were actually tracking every single dollar I spent on for like several months. And I had this one month where it was absurdly low, right? And this other month where it was crazy expensive. We realized even measuring your grocery bill is while it's good and it's a good idea, like it's not really the heart of it, right? Because it's really what we want to know is the cost of consumption. So I actually just this past month, it's so interesting that we're talking about this right now, pulled up. Have you guys ever used RP Diet? Have you ever heard of that app, Renaissance
No.
Periodization? It's a pretty cool app. It's pretty intense, but it's pretty cool. It's kind of like MyFitnessPal, but it actually has like if it fits your macros built into it. So I was using this in the background, but what I noticed is that I very quickly moved away from like recipes, and I was now looking at individual ingredients that would make up my meals. When you're doing significant amount of meal prep, because you're leaning into something, you start moving more and more away from complex recipes that you don't know what's in it, and more to like staples that you have.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that pattern?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, I'm like, oh, I have to be able to take out like crock pot meals. I'm like, oh, how much cabbage is in that? How much ground beef did I put in that? So I get you totally on that
So we
one.
crave simplicity, right? So I know who I'm talking to. If this is a community of people that lean on meal prepping, they lean on intentionality, like you want to be able to control what's going on. And once you do that, you're at a real advantage. You're already farther down this road. So here's what what I've been doing recently is I went through this process of mapping out the 4 meals that I wanted to have a day. And once I had that information, I just started to map out what would allow me to hit my protein goals, my carb goals, all this sorts of thing. And it became very clear that what drives the cost of your monthly expenses is obviously your protein choice. Like when you come down to it, your oatmeal costs nothing. Like if you want an oatmeal diet, you could eat for $30 a month. I mean, I wouldn't want to do that. It wouldn't be fun. I'm just saying it does, right? If you were going to say, well, let me add one extra ingredient, oatmeal and bananas, nothing. They cost nothing. But if you were to make a slightly different choice and say oatmeal and blueberries, blueberry on a gram for gram nutrition basis is like 25 times more per like gram of nutrition than bananas. Now, I love blueberries, and no one's telling you to jack the blueberries up. But if you're all blueberries and no bananas, right? Like you've made a lifestyle choice that is going to have an inherent cost based in it. What is your cost of consumption? Now, that was just on the carb side because I was really having fun with that. I realized that literally my fruit choice, right? My fruit choice was on the carb side was driving a significant amount. And you could kind of find that balance between blueberries and apples and bananas. And then I realized, and this is kind of a cool idea, in my back of my mind, I'd heard someone say to me, man, you should really only eat the fruits when they're in season anyways, because you're eating them out of season. They don't have as much flavor. They have to use more pesticides to actually get them to stay in, et cetera, et cetera. And they're more expensive. Right. So what if you kind of leaned and got a list of when fruits were in season and try to stuck with those guidelines? Because prices, and when you go to the grocery store, like they have a plan. They have a plan for your money. That stuff that's very easy to access at the front of the store. You walk into Wegmans, it's beautiful. Like the fruit is expensive. If you break it down to a cost per normal serving, you're like, holy crap. But if you go all the way to the back of the store, all the way to the back, and you go pick up some eggs, they're giving those eggs away for free, like for free. And so it's kind of like if you can start to observe the patterns, it's so easy when you're meal planning because you're eating like less variety than even a normal like family going through life would even consider. Now that's a carb side. We move to vegetables. Like vegetables are just free calories, right? Eat more. That's general advice. Probably not going to break the bank on vegetables. Eat more. We don't need to spend a lot of time there. But when we get to meat, now, when you tell me that, all right, wow, well, we eat $100 a week, I'm like, hey, what meat are you eating? Or are you not eating, right? Because this is the entire play. Chicken, you can find from anywhere from $1.49 to $2.99 a pound, depending on what variation you're actually going to get. And then if you want to spend a little more than that, you can get antibiotic free, you can get steroid free. Like, how much optimization do you actually feel that you need there? Are you getting the clearance items? Steak. You can spend quite literally anywhere from $4.99 or less for ground beef, all the way up to $30 a pound, right? Or more, right? Or do you cut out meat entirely? Now, if you start to view it as like, oh, I have a choice, and the choices I make are going to directly affect not only what I'm consuming, right? Because vegetarians like, well, what about me? Exactly, right? Exactly. What about me? But also it's going to directly affect your wallet. And so the key here is not to say that you are only going to eat oatmeal and bananas, you're only going to eat steak and caviar, but it's that you're going to find a blend that meets your health and nutrition goals and doesn't break your wallet. And this is where I think you end up landing in the sweet spot that in my mind is fit waist, fit wallet, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, actually, let's put this back on you, dude. Tell us a little bit more about how you're able to get your grocery bill at the numbers you just described. Like your cost of consumption there is absurdly low. What are you guys doing?
Well, one of my biggest life hacks, you guys love to talk about hacks on your show. And I knew that you would flip the script on me here because you're a master interviewer. Um, I hunt. I
Oh, wow.
Hunting is a huge hack. I get venison for less than, $1 to $2 a pound of grass fed, free range meat that is, and I eat the organ meat. I'll eat a venison liver, and you could buy liver here in town for $5 a pound, and one of those is about 8 pounds. So we're talking about a $40 piece of meat that a lot of people throw away, and it's one of the healthiest things you could possibly put in your body. So that's a hack right there.
That's
And
huge.
yeah, doing that. And then another just a quick hack that I discovered. I follow the ketogenic diet,
Yep.
and so I'm pretty much all protein, all fat. And we don't just talk about that on the show. We talk about all sorts of different nutritional styles. But I found a product called the Keto Brick. It's 1,000 calories, and if you do their monthly subscription, it's about $5 per brick. So you can get 1,000 calories and it's perfect. It perfectly fits. It's all clean. And my buddy, Keto Savage Robert Sykes, who's been on the show a couple of times, he's a fan favorite of the show. He creates those. It's his company. So I know the person making that feels good too. But yeah, between those two things, I can get a ton of calories in, like I said, 3,000 to 4,000 calories per day, fueling my, I work out hard, I lift hard, I live actively. It can definitely happen. Then I've been known to do shots of, straight shots of olive oil at certain
Oh
points,
my goodness.
just to get the calories in.
I
That's not
love
for
it.
everybody, but that's like I said, I'm driven by that frugality. I'm driven by quality nutrition. So taste isn't as important for
Yeah.
me, but I know that is for a lot of people. So what
Well,
are your
let's
tips around that? Like, how do we actually make stuff taste good? How do we, like, what are some of your thoughts around that? Because I know you've got some.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So first of all, what I love about this is like, I think we all understand this, and I love the lack of dogma. That's the best part. Like, there is no one diet, there is
Yep.
no one path. But if you look at all of them, as far apart as they might seem at first glance, well, are you going to be high fat? Are you going to be, there's just so many variants of it. At its core, almost all of them involve getting rid of processed food, cutting out the sugar as much as possible, drinking more water,
Yep.
living an active lifestyle, just reducing how much you eat out. Like, all of these work for you, and they work for your wallet as well, right? So regardless of whether or not you end up going with paleo or some crazy blood diet I'm not judging the blood diet. I'm just saying I know it exists. That's all I'm saying. All right. Or keto, or you end up just counting your macros, or you end up going, any of the other variants that are out there, it's going to work for you. So now once you know that, then you're like, all right, well, what actually fits in my life? Like, if it fits your macros, intermittent fasting, how does this fit in the life that I want to create? And you're trying to find that sweet spot. I give my permission to try diets, try them hard. And then as soon as I realize that I don't like it, not that it's hard, but that it doesn't fit my life or lifestyle,
Yep.
bend the diet to your needs to move it away from a diet, right? And I know you talk about this, to a lifestyle. What is a lifestyle because again, going to that, when you don't eat that donut that one day, okay, it doesn't really make a difference. But when you don't eat a donuts or that type of food for a year, you're a different human being, right? So we need to figure out how to move from a diet to a lifestyle, right? And what we're looking for is those common themes. And you're never, at the end of any of these programs, you're never going to end up thinking that the Coca-Cola is okay, right? It's never going to just be okay.
I
That's
hope
not
not.
something, right? It just doesn't work that way. But on the flip side of that, like, you decide to eat meat, you decide to not eat meat because of whatever, like, it's either these are going to work for you, but you're going to need to work inside those parameters and figure out what works for your life. All right, now moving to like what I actually did. There's a couple things. So I try vegetarian meals, but I'm not a vegetarian, not a vegan. I do eat meat. And so some of these tips are going to be around that. So what I look for are staples that I really enjoy. And for me, once I ditched fast food, the only thing I still occasionally hold on to is every once in a while I'll get a chicken sandwich from Chick-fil-A. Every once in a while. I just can't quite let it go, but I'm
It's
almost there.
addictive. Yeah.
I know. Gosh, peanut oil. It's so bad for you. All right. We'll come back to this. All right. So what I do is I kind of found myself drifting towards more like Chipotle. It was like my go-to fast food because it's the lesser, right? It's not
Yep.
perfect. The portion sizes are too big, and of course, like, I eat it all because I'm never gonna save it for later. So I have to limit how often I do that. So what I was like, what if I could get Chipotle at home? I have so much more self-control when I make it myself. And so my ultimate hack has been creating a Chipotle marinade, right? And I went through all these variations that I found on the internet. You can just Google Chipotle marinade copycat. But I just basically found at the end of that using the basics of marinating, just generally, you need some sort of sweetener, you need some sort of oil, you need some sort of spices, some sort of heat if you want to do that. And like it will come together. So for me, I've gotten to a place in life where when I'm talking about my meal prep, I almost refuse to measure anything out. Like you will never catch me measuring out an eighth of a teaspoon of anything, right? I'm at sprinkle, splash, whatever. It's things like that. So it's all based around this marinade. I go and buy the cheapest cut of steak meat that I can find. Probably do it with your venison, it'd be delicious.
Yeah.
And so for me, I've found it's either a top sirloin I can usually get for around $5.99 a pound at Wegmans, actually, surprisingly, or I would even be okay. There's like flat steaks and a few other. Just look for something on the lower end. We're gonna marinate this sucker, right? So this is what I do to actually reduce my cost per serving, but still have these higher ends. Okay, and you can't do it every single meal. If you want to eat steak every single meal, you're gonna blow up your budget. But I can have it like a couple times a week, as a nice splurge. And I can have it and still, because we're talking about the law of averages, because breakfast costs nothing and dinner is my homemade Chipotle, you're going to easily fall in this $2 to $3 per serving range. And so for me, my marinade, and I'm going to try and go off memory here. So if I may correct myself in post, but we'll give it a shot. It starts with a base of olive oil. And then I throw in there this is the key. This is the secret. 1 can of Adobe Chipotle peppers. They're inside the can. You can get them for like $1.49, right?
Nice.
1 to 2 limes, some salt, some pepper. Notice I did not say a fourth of a teaspoon or whatever. Like, come on. Use some judgment. Sprinkle, splash, whatever. Let's do that. And then from there, you want to have a little bit of a sweetener. So like maybe a little bit of honey, a little bit of brown sugar. Not a ton, just a little bit. And then I think the only other thing I add is give me just a second here. I'm going to lose it. Soy sauce. Soy sauce. Soy sauce is a critical ingredient for marinades. It actually will act as a phenomenal salt substitute. So if you really lean in the soy, and that could be like a fourth of a cup to a half cup, it could be more. It's a marinade. It's going to all come off anyways, right? Make this marinade. It costs a fraction. You don't need to go out and buy anything. And then what I do, depending on whether you want a ton of plastic bags hanging around, I go back and forth on this one, environmental side versus not. Get the Ziploc bags and cut your steak up, get it kind of flat, because we don't want a thick cut steak, right? If our butcher can cut us thinner cuts, great. But then I throw that in there and I will make like 5 pounds of meat, right? 5 pounds of meat. And that is good for a week. I mean, you got it marinated for a couple of days, cook it up maybe in 2 batches, chop it up into Chipotle sized pieces. And any meal is better with that. Just base your meal around that. That now you've got that. I mean, if you're eating a traditional portion size, and that's going to be a $3 meal, $3.50 at the high end. Every single time you decide to do that instead of Chipotle or instead of Panda Express or instead of whatever, you're looking for things that you genuinely delight over, that bring joy to your life, that you can eat at home. You can do this with chicken too. So if you want to alternate chicken thighs, I'm telling you, with this marinade, it's the jams. Like, don't go for breast. You can have a little bit of fat. It's okay.
Yep.
Like, and in fact, if you're keto, you're like, well, I need more fat, right? More. Let's up the ante. So that's the key there. And then what I do, once I've been marinating for a couple of days, what I do, depending on the thickness of the meat, we're going to brown that on our skillet, right? So like up 3 minutes on each side, somewhere in that range, maybe all the way up to 6 minutes a side. And then depending on whether or not it's hit the right temperature, and this is all predicated on how thick the cut was, right? If you've got a thin, less than half-inch cut, that's perfect. You can get your butcher to cut it for you that size, that's perfect. But if you got something that's massive, right, it's a full inch or bigger, get it done, get the browning right, and then finish it off in the oven. 400 degrees, less than 10 minutes. Get that thing, if it's chicken, to 165, 125 on meat, and you are golden. And you've brought that in home, you've hacked it, you made something you like, and I tell you, it makes broccoli taste better, makes your quinoa or rice or whatever it is that you're eating taste better. Like, everything's better when you can have Chipotle on demand. And then you can flesh that out, right? Aggregation of marginal gains here. What does it look like to add in like just a few of those other toppings that you look forward to? You can make those onions at home, that fajita pepper mix, have unlimited amounts of that. Why not? It's so cheap, right?
Chef
Build our life
Jonathan.
around foods that we look forward to.
Yes. Chef Jonathan. I see a cooking, like, I could see you beating Bobby Flay, honestly. Like my friend, I interviewed Fabio Viviani, who's beat Bobby Flay twice. And I think we can get the hookup going. I think we can get you in that. You can beat him.
Well,
but
I could
spend half of what he spends. That would be the real way, that a budget crush.
I saw this one guy. It's like on the one end, the dude's cooking like a $600 steak, and the other one, the dude's doing it for $16. And the $16 dude is like using a Coca-Cola to marinate it. I said, nope, not in here. That's too far.
That is awesome. Now, What about your mindset as you head into the grocery store? Like, I know that you think strategically about things like this. So, are you going to multiple stores? Like I do, like I do Aldi Wednesdays. I pick up my kids. Like I really optimize. My kids' school is by Aldi. So when I pick them up from school on Wednesday, I'm like, okay, it's close to Aldi Wednesday. There we go. And then I do Kroger, which is our general chain here on Saturdays. And I have that mix. But when you actually walk in, like, what are you thinking? Are you mapping out like budget wise? Do you have certain things you get from certain stores? What's the weekly game plan look like?
Dude, I'm an optimizer too. Unfortunately, you've got this massive cheat in that you don't have to buy meat.
Truth.
You just got all that's amazing. That's huge. Well, that's incredible. Okay. But for the rest of us, so what I do is knowing that for the vast majority of us, the cost of our grocery budget is predicated on our meat selection. I really think about where I'm going to purchase that meat from, right? I'm basing my diet around that meat choice. If you're a vegetarian, you're still basing it around that protein source. I mean,
Yep.
it's not like you get a get out of jail free card. You got to go buy those meat substitutes, and they're even more expensive than meat. So it's the same idea, right? If you have, like, all of us have items that regardless of whether or not we've actually tracked what we eat, we have 20 items that we prefer. They usually end up in some cadence of our lives, regardless of like whatever else is going on. There's the items that we buy over and over again. So why wouldn't you know who offers the best deal on those? Why would you ignore that? Like, take a little bit of time. If you can figure out your number to reach financial independence, of course you can figure out your number on these items: cost per gram, cost per bag. Don't let them fool you with the different unit sizes they use, like pounds, ounces, whatever. No, you can figure it out, right? We can convert. Let Google do the work for you. And then once you have those 20 items, go to your 3 or 4 stores that you would maybe consider getting them from, because there's a lot of variations. A cost center for one place is a loss center for the other. In case you were confused, you want to spend less, right? So we're looking at, where is there any sort of way that I could take advantage of the companies that are giving these away for free but charging a lot for this? I'll skip that and I'll go find that at some other place where they're giving it away for free without going to 5 different stores, right? Like, you don't need to get the best price on everything, but you're looking at like the point of diminishing returns. Like, clearly you want to know what's going on with the blueberries. They cost 3 times as much at Wegmans as they do at Costco, right? So like, I'm going to get blueberries at Costco along with my meat. So if it makes sense to buy your meat in bulk, Costco has incredible cuts of meat. I just feel like they're a little bit closer to fresh, and you're able to buy them in bulk. I make them in bulk. That's convenient for me. So what I do personally is I get my big items that I know I'm buying in bulk that don't blow things up. Costco does not have great deals on eggs, so I'm not going to get my eggs at Costco. I'm going to get the things that make sense at Costco, things that I know will last a long time. That's another rule. We don't waste it. We do not throw stuff out in my family. We have an absurd commitment to eating everything we purchase.
Yes.
If you purchase something, like, you've made the commitment. Now, that you can get one tax. Like, if you're in a drift state and your cabinets are full of zebra bars because they remind you of your childhood, right? They're still crap, and they were probably made when you were a child. But if they're in your cabinet, you get one free pass to throw it all out. Every single like major transformation of someone that's been able to shift has involved them saying, all right, I bought all this when I was in a drift state, and now as part of the new year, as part of my new plan, I'm getting rid of all of it. I'm starting fresh. That's your last opportunity to just throw stuff out. You buy it, you eat it. That's the goal. So don't idealistically start walking through the stores and say, I'll have one of those, because once it's in the house, you're eating it. If you don't eat it, that again is a tax to say, we'll never buy it again, ever, right? Because you won't eat it. You will not eat it. You know how much money you can save? Like, look at how many trash bags you're putting out each week, and that'll tell you how much money you're wasting, right? I give you a real sense of that. So once we're past that, we do our bulk shopping at Costco. Think about the things that have long perishability, like they'll last for a long time. You don't want things to go off. You've made a critical mistake. Once you've done that, you now get to map out the remaining items you need. Now, in terms of figuring out what I actually need, here's what I do. I like to figure out what I want to eat on Pinterest, right? So there's different types of meals that you might make as a family. There's yours, and then specifically, me and you. As a man, this is all I need, right? It's my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, my cadence. Like, your wife says, do you want to sit down with us for dinner? Like, no, I got this. It's like, this is what I'm doing right now. That's one thing. But there's also meals that you make as a family, and meals that you aspire to make as a family. Because remember, you're not eating out. The point is not that you're eating beans and rice in your bathroom when no one's looking, right? It is that you have a life that you get excited about. And so it's not, we're never going to restaurants. No, like, why would you go to the restaurant? I can make something so much better here. But that's not going to happen by accident. My Chipotle marinade is not going to get you all the way there. You need to think about, what does it look like to impress my spouse, my partner, my friend that's on this ride with me, with how awesome it is when we get to make meals together at home. So that looks like Pinterest for me. I just graze on Pinterest, let my eyes wander and look for something that looks awesome. Then I click on it and see if it's reasonable. If it has 50 ingredients, it's not reasonable. I'm not doing it, right? Find the balance. Once you have that, now here's some real actionable tactics for your audience. I purchased every version available of an app called Paprika. What I love about the app is it's a one and done app. Like, there's no ongoing licenses. It's not software as service subscription. It's like, you got to pay for it for your MacBook. You got to pay for it for your phone. So you might, depending on how many different ecosystems you have, you might have to buy 3 licenses. Worth it. Totally worth it. Now, here's what I do. Take the Pinterest, get the link, bring it over into Paprika on whatever app you're using it on. Bring that URL over. Paprika brings that, aggregates all of that information that was in like a website with someone's cute little story and what they did in the fall and how the seasonings tasted, and gets rid of all of that. And it says, bam, here's your ingredients. Here's how to make it. And they all are separated out, right? It's look, and then from there you say, yes, I want to do that. Download. It downloads it into your baskets of recipes. I don't have a recipe Rolodex. Don't do it. My mom may have, my people may do that. No, I'm in a digital world. Got to embrace the future here. That's what I have. Now, from there, I'm very vicious when it comes to rating these things. If I take the time to make it once and it's like, okay, it's a 1. It's a 1. I don't want to delete it because I never want to be confused when I'm on Pinterest again that like it looks so good, but really it's like a meh. A meh is a 1, right? I want to know that it's there so I never make the mistake of trying to make it again. I'm looking for 5 or 4s, right? Cultivate this list of 5 or 4s on the taste scale. Once you do that, you can actually map out how many meals per week you need to eat. You can take those 4 or 5 meals and you can then upload it to your shopping list. One button click, upload it. Now, here's the great thing. How many of us say, oh, do I have any more Worcestershire sauce? Hardest word in the English language. Do I have any more of that? I don't know. I think we're getting low. I'm not sure. You're right. You don't have to. What I do now is now you have the shopping list. The shopping list is on my phone and it has like, all right, here's everything you need based on the 5 meals you picked in there. Go to your cabinets first, shop your cabinets first, right? Check that stuff off. And now you have a dialed in list of what you still need. Now I've already done my bulk shopping at Costco. Now I have this list of 5 or 6 things. And then here's the other thing. When you go to the grocery store has a plan for you, right? Like they want you to go to the end caps. They want you to notice the stuff. They want your son to pick up the bubble gum and hand it to you, or the toy. Like there's a plan there, right? I just nip it all in the bud. Online grocery store shopping. That's a thing now. They're doing that. Boom. There it is. So there are a couple ways to look at it though. Now, one, I think so Wegmans, who we happen to have, is awesome. They have something called Instacart. It's a third party. It adds a tackle. Well, what they do is, and here's my irritation. You look at the foods that are at Wegmans through the Instacart portal. There is no guarantee that the Instacart prices match up exactly to the Wegmans prices. In fact, people have done experiments and seen there could be as much or a 10 or 27 dollar difference or 10% difference. Like to me, that makes me very nervous because I'm doing the entire point of online shopping for me is to get rid of the extra money I would have spent on grazing. I don't want to then give that money towards a donation because I just happen to shop online. So I'm very I think you can still save money. If it were my only option, I would probably still do it. But I can say if you have a Kroger in your area, Kroger actually has this service in-house, not a third party. You get the exact same prices you would get in the store, the exact same, and they charge you a flat fee for either delivery or pickup. It's like $10 for delivery or $4.99 for pickup. I pick up. I'm cheap. What can I say?
Yep.
I pick up I'm willing to do the one thing, but I only buy what's on my list. That idea, perfect utilization, like less waste. You're just maxing out. You're more if you only buy what you need, you're more likely to make what you plan for instead of, oh, well, actually I have all these snacks. We have all these frozen meals, so we'll just do that. And frozen meals. That's my last thing. Gosh, I'm ranting here. Last thing here. There's nothing wrong with occasionally having a frozen meal. It's not the end of the world, but buy the good ones, right? There's different qualities of frozen meals. So I love, I still go to Sam's Club and Costco to peruse and get those in bulk frozen meals. Again, I'm anchoring myself to $2 per person per meal. You haven't failed if you get something that's $3 per person per meal. But if it's $12 per person, you better know I'm at least noticing it. I may make the decision to add that to my in bulk, desirable, frozen meals if we ever need something. But it's an intentional decision. I'm still anchored to $2 per person, right? And so what I'm looking for, I'm just doing mental math as I go down the aisles. I'm like, oh, that lasagna looks pretty good. That could be as an eggplant lasagna. That's interesting. Maybe that'll be good. I don't know. We'll try it. All right? It's $8.95 and it gives me 4 servings. Oh yeah, wow. Okay, well that's a nice backup, right? And what you're doing here is sometimes life is stressful. Sometimes life is busy. Sometimes you just, they got away from you, right? And when you get in a stressed out place, as we know with our health and fitness, when you're stressed out, your willpower slides, right? You're tempted. And at that point, you're like, oh, life is so hard. Panda Express is calling. It's been 60 days. Like, you're going to blow it at Panda Express and you're going to finish Panda Express and you're going to want ice cream. I don't know what it is about ice cream and pizza, but that's how it goes for me, right? It's like, and then that snowball effect takes you a week to come back from. And then you're 2 weeks from all the progress that you made. It takes you another 2 weeks to get back to even. And you're so demoralized that you're now on tilt and you're just trying to get your blood sugar back under control. We don't want to go there. And if it costs you a couple semi-processed meals, as a tax for you just making sure that in a stressed out situation, you might not have the perfect meal, but it's 80% good enough, right? It's part of your plan. And you made that plan when you were in good mental place. Not only are you now making an intentional decision there that you've budgeted for, but you're also preventing like the snowball. We can't have that snowball working against us. We can't be on tilt. And we need to, again, live this lifestyle, not this diet, right?
Yes. And my audience knows that I am absolutely loving what you just said, because I talk about strategic thinking. Like, I don't care what nutrition plan you're on. I don't care what fitness style you're on. We have to think about our body like our business and what could put us out of business. And what you just described is so important, of that moment of stressed plus hungry equals hangry equals no willpower equals poor decisions. And it's even worse if we haven't meal prepped and it's not a binary decision. Like, it's a little bit easier if you're stressed in that moment of decision and you have that nice meal, that Chipotle, Jonathan's Chipotle madness ready to go, or you can hit Panda Express. But when nothing's even prepped, we're not going to make the better decision. So thinking strategically is something that I preach on this. So I love it when my guests come on as experts and validate lessons that I've taught in the past. It is always amazing.
And these lessons are not coming from like a textbook, right? They're coming from your life, like because you've screwed up, because like when it goes south, here's why it goes south. Because I think both of us are coming to the place that we are regular dudes that are in the trenches with you, that struggle with weight, have struggled with weight. It's been part of our identity. And we're actually trying to separate ourselves out from that and take the larger approach and look back on it and say, how do we solve this? And how have we designed our life to build the structure? Because there's a great saying out there. It's not that you have less, like people that are doing this right. It's not that they have more willpower than you. It's that they're tempted less, right? It's not that you have no willpower and they have no, they're not tempted. So what does it look like to create a life where you are not tempted? And what would that mean for your ability to achieve your goals?
Amazing. Jonathan Mendonsa, ladies and gentlemen, dude, we could go another like 2 hours and it'll seem like 15 minutes, because I feel like I'm just starting to stoke the flame here, but we will have to start to pump our brakes a little bit here. But before we do that, you guys have so much information that you're putting out right now. Like, your ecosystem of ChooseFI is just so high value. And like I said, it's changed my life and I refer so many people to it. How do people get plugged into that? Like, what's the best way to just dive in if people want to go a little bit deeper down the rabbit hole with you guys?
Thank you, Adam. Thank you so much. This has been a pleasure to have these conversations, because this is like legitimately like, these are my worlds colliding, right? I mean, everything we talked about isn't because I just made it up on the spot. It's like, it's my life, right? And just thinking through it through the lens of intentionality. My podcast, as you mentioned, is called ChooseFI. You can search for it, one word or two, Choose Financial Independence. You can find it anywhere podcasts are found. You're listening to a podcast right now. Just search ChooseFI, check it out. We actually did create just a way for people to get involved in our community, in our ecosystem, ChooseFI.com/start. I don't want to overwhelm people with like calls to actions here, but I will just say what we talked about at the beginning of the show is so important. Your finances and your fitness and your health, but your finances. And they should have taught this to you in school, right? They gave you the choice to take out 6 figures of student loan debt on a whim. No one taught you your finances in school and the simple stuff that we were able to cover in like, an hour. And that information is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. They didn't teach it to you in school. And because of that, we're kind of, we're contrarians. And we're like, well, this needs to be fixed. We're not going to charge for it. This is a free resource. We've created a brand new financial literacy curriculum that goes through exactly what we talked about here. It's completely 100% free. And it's free because it's really priceless, right? They should have taught this to you in school. If you want to go through that course, either by yourself or with a friend, a family member, go to ChooseFI.com/FI, FI101. It's open right now, 100% free, the highest quality you can imagine. And like at the end of this, you will have a plan for your financial literacy that will entirely lead to financial independence.
Yes. And guys, for all you listening in, you know that I preach action steps. And if you're a little bit fired up, but also a little bit overwhelmed by all this, do this course. The FI 101 is an amazing resource. I cannot recommend a resource any more highly. It is free. Just do it. Take action. Set that implementation alarm like we talk about every week, and take action with that. Jonathan, man, this has been a pleasure. This is I've really been looking forward to this, and you over-delivered by a long shot. And it's just it's so fun to be able to talk about something that's impacted my life so deeply, and have an expert like you come on and just drop knowledge on my audience. So I appreciate your investment in us in the Million Pound Mission, my friend.
I mean, honestly, Adam, your story is the one that's untold right now. We got to find out more about this path to FI. So we'll get that opportunity in the near future, I have a feeling.
Yes. All right, everybody. Like I said, it's time to set that implementation alarm. Pick out that one action step, that one thing that really inspired you, and go down the rabbit hole. Go a little bit deeper, but do it in the next 24 hours before that fire starts to fade. Take action. Get out there and own it. Every meal, every workout, every day. I will see you on the next episode. Well, hey there, good looking. I want to say thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Million Pound Mission podcast. And I've got a favor to ask you. If this episode made an impact for you, would you share it out with one person? Help me spread the message of the Million Pound Mission and add some fuel to the fire of our goal to achieve 1 million pounds of amazing results. And speaking about that 1 million pounds, if you haven't gone to millionpoundmission.com lately and donated your weight loss, please do it, or I'll never reach my goal. So head on over to millionpoundmission.com, donate that weight, and spread the word that we are on a 1 million pound mission together.